Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4 for another mod overview. Yes, it's been a good couple 3 months and I'm happy to say progress on the mod has been pretty good so far. Last time I showed it, I didn't even have all the leaders for all the countries, all the flags, but we're in a far more complete state right now. And when I click single player here, visually not much is going to look different. Obviously you have the bookmark screen here, which is not really elaborated or established yet. You just have some blank descriptions. And this is what I intend the major countries to be. So you have Wandrusha, Vitruvius, Konomizre, Kurdnazre, Forshelm, Octatria, and Angkora as the big players in the world. And visually, again, not much has changed geopolitically. I'm pretty sure some of these borders here have been refined a little bit. And there's not really any new starting countries other than this one, Shirazia, which was in this weird sort of like buffer zone, and it's actually a puppet of its neighbor here, Koromash. But we'll get to that before we get ahead of ourselves. Let's just get in the game here. You can already tell some things have changed, but I'm really excited to show you guys a lot of the new lore and the direction I'm sort of going with this mod going forth. And there's a lot I have to show since the last 3 months I showed this off. So as you can see, this country has starting troops now, and this is one of the only ones that actually have it. But I'm just getting around to adding the militaries, and you can see they work fine and move and all have names and stuff. And you have your divisions and stuff, so we're in like a more playable state here, but I'll get to that later because there's kind of a big deal with the divisions. I'm actually getting someone from the Equestria War Dev team to help me fix it. So hopefully they can fix it, because if not, it'll be a pretty big deal. But anyway, I'll get to that later. I did want to say, since the last time I showed you this mod, I have met a friend of mine who has helped significantly, moral support, emotional, just being a good friend of mine, and also has drafted a few new religions, cultures, and, bits of lore going on here. So yeah, he's been a huge help. His name is Lotta the Patient, and I should have asked him to get on here, but he's on the other side of the world, so he has a different time zone than me. Like, it's early morning for me, so it's probably midnight for him. So, unfortunately, couldn't get that to happen. But hopefully, next time I show you guys this mod, I'll be able to be in a VC with him. But he has written some things for me and helped me out with just talking about the lore, discussing ideas and stuff, and coming up with new things. And it has been tremendous help. It gave me a lot of, motivation to continue this project, to actually get it into a complete state, despite all the shit trying to bring me down, But that being said, actually, what am I going to say? Anyway, yeah, the map was not finished in the first video I showed. You did have all of the, vaguely, like the final borders change, because I remember right before I recorded the last video, I had actually gave this entire continent a facelift to get the borders you have now. Before, the borders were a lot different. There was like a lot more tiny countries, sort of like, just like little tribal countries, but they've since been consolidated into larger countries. So most of these borders have not changed since the last video. But right before I recorded the last video, this continent looked way different than what it does right now. But this is pretty much the final world map, at least at the start of the game in 2998. Again, this is still very early, so things could change a lot. But this is kind of what it's been stuck at for the past few months. And pretty much this is the final world map, final borders, everything like that. And since we have, the whole world map complete, it's getting more to writing the flavor, like the descriptions of leaders, the different political ideologies and stuff going into that, the different wars that will be going on, events, etc., etc. So all the flavor stuff to actually get the game rolling and actually get content in the game and wars kicking off and stuff. But I can say, because I didn't really elaborate, there's a lot I didn't elaborate on in my last video. A lot that I meant to say and I just didn't, because I'm not really good with unscripted stuff. Even if I write down a list of everything I want to say, I'm definitely going to forget something because I'm just not good at that sort of thing. At least not, when I was in my prime all those years ago doing those Hello Neighbor modding videos when I was a kid. But again, I did briefly go over sort of the lore that was going into this mod. And I do remember saying it's 2998 in the year 3000. So you have 2 years to prepare. There's going to be a major event called Y3K, which if you know Kaiserreich, which I know if you're probably watching this, you probably know Kaiserreich. It's the biggest Hearts of Iron 4 mod. There's the Black Monday event that causes a lot of economies to go in recession and stuff, and basically kickstarts all the events of the whole mod. And after that event happens, you have to sort of rebuild your country and fix the economic issues, and then like all the great wars kick off. So it's going to be kind of the same concept with this, where you have a few years to prepare, and then the big kicker comes off and starts off a lot of war. So the main conflict is going to be fought in this region. This is Anaphrasia, if you remember, and this is specifically West Anaphrasia. This is the part of the continent. But the big major war is going to be fought in this area. And again, this area right here that I'm highlighting is essentially this world's equivalent of modern day Europe, just because it's the most stable, developed, sort of region with the peaceful and most stable region. But that is soon going to change, because there will be a major war that breaks out, and this will be basically the main conflict of the mod and the story. So right here you have Vitruvius. He's led by Count Vernier, the dawn of yesterday, a reactionary party. They want to go back to the old days, the good old days, and you can see they have a lot of ultra-nationalists, hyper-nationalists, hyper-nationalist support here in the Phoenix front. And basically they will flip to hyper-nationalist after Y3K, and it'll be like a sort of expansionist, ultra-nationalist, xenophobic sort of regime that wants to annex a lot of these smaller countries and expand its influence in this region. And obviously over here, Wandrusia, which is your world's biggest democracy, and its friends in Fjordsgrid, Roxanne, and Collinway. Roxanne and its allies are not going to like that. So you're going to see Vitruvius probably try to invade like Wathena here, Grami, Lurktva, Vulcanhem, all of these smaller countries, and there'll be a major war between Wandrusia and Vitruvius that kind of like gets this entire continent involved in a war. And later, Palath down here, which is one of the only absolutist countries in this region, will go to war with Rezemniki, which is a socialist country, and there will be a big war here. And then eventually Palath will join Vitruvius in their sort of influence. So think of it like an Axis versus Ally sort of scenario. And Arinstron here, you can see it's a directorial democracy, so not really a democracy, but it's like on the verge of authoritarian. They will also join forces with Vitruvius, and you'll have like an axis of these three countries versus the allies of all of these democratic nations having a full-out war. And obviously when this entire region gets enveloped in war, the less stable regions of the world will obviously follow suit and collapse into civil war or conflict, like I intend for down here, Kruzvidar, which is also hyper-nationalist, one of the few hyper-nationalist states that start at the game. We'll probably go to war with some of its neighbors down here, and there'll probably be a big war here. And something that I am excited to show you, really, I actually just finished working on it the other day. So I don't remember if I said it, but Octatria here, which is this huge California-type island, is going to have a civil war, a major civil war. Think of it like the Fire Rises USA with all of these like warlord factions, the different state governments and regional governments, and just total chaos going on the entire island here. And I don't think this was here last time, but this is a new thing. These are a impassable region, this large desert here, and down here you have it too. And down here you have like these little tunnel ways you can come through here, but you can't pass through the large desert. And you can see nobody lives here. This is basically a wasteland. Same thing down here. You can go through these little tunnel ways. And the significance of this, I'll get to that in a minute here. Because if I type event OCW.1, there he is. This is the Octatrian Civil War. Yes, this is the basically the map for the Octatrian Civil War, with all of these different factions and regional warlords going at it. And think of this like a massive like cartel war going on. Like if I zoom in here, a lot of these regions aren't countries. Again, you have this one is the Bazukaya cartel. Also, unfortunately, none of them have flags or leaders yet, because again, I just added them the other day. So you have the Bazukaya cartel, Republic of Ayala, Berserker Corps, Weijuana, which will have something to do with Weijumeyer over here, if you recall. Operation Arazire, Yellow Kanamisre, the Guanaz Free State, Land of Confusion, which is a Phil Collins reference. Shozi Family, Sukhoi's Yakuza, Clay Country, the Highwaymen, Sayaki Cartel, which these are like the big bad guys. See, they're actually sort of esoteric, which esoteric is the rarest ideology in the game. Only one country starts as esoteric, but some of the cartels will be considered esoteric. But that's basically like the ultra fascist ideology, worse than hypernationalism, as you can see. So yeah, these are like basically the big bad guys. Think of them like Burgundian System, sort of something like that from TNO. You have the Centurion Consortium, which I'm pretty sure you can probably know what this is going to be just based off the name. The Baja Boys, Molinera Cartel, the Guan Syndicate, the State of Subaja, which you can see is just this dark brown, and it has a few other ones that are the same color. Because this is like in the Fire Rise, like when North Carolina or South Carolina or Mississippi or Texas, like the deep southern states in California secede, they all have like the same dark blue color, and the regional state government stayed intact, and they're at war with like all the other regional warlords. That's kind of the same idea here. You have like some of the state governments that managed to, consolidate control. So you have Subaya, the state of Kyoka, Hanauza, Sorita, and Totorana, which are the 4 state governments that are like, remnants of the Octatrian government that collapsed. You also have the Gang of 8, the Twin Isles Union, Gauzer's Principality, El Suzerain, which I intend to be a major player in this conflict, the Commune of Lawrence, the Trucial Cities, Wrong Side, the Kakarosa Confederation, the Nueva Family, Los Nianir, and then the International Peacekeeping Authority took over the capital region, you can see here, and it's a demilitarized zone. But I plan to probably do more with that in the future, but for now it's just given to IPA. So you also have the Salvation Cartel, the State of Kyoka, we already said, the Passing, Maspaches Clique, Zapazar Collective, the Brotherhood of Kyaku, Fiefdom del Monte, the Guardian Angels, Castillo Carcina, Sugar Pastures, the Southern Offensive Command, National Resistance Army, the Nakanaka Confederation, Pozo's Gang, Totorana, we went over that, Peninsular Authority, and the Fanafula Naval Command. And Weiju Meyer seized some of these islands in different regions, and there's also the Pinar Protectorate, which is a puppet of Angrakora right here. It becomes a puppet after the collapse. Just sort of like Angrakora invaded the island to keep it, out of cartel control. So the lore for this is still very early, but you got like the rough draft of like what this all is going to be. And again, these tunnelways are going to be a very important part of the Civil War, especially for the warlords around this region, because right now you can see it's actually an anarchy. It's just a completely blacked out part of the map. And it says, beyond this point lies no man's land, whether it be brought about by uncontrolled civil unrest and riots, perpetual warfare, or forgy forbid. Because again, we don't say God, we say forgy in this world. Nuclear annihilation. These wastelands are formidable. May no soul travel these lands, for they will most certainly be lost in its vast deserts, mountains, and urban ruins. And you got like a nice little picture there, which isn't my picture. I just got it off of Roblox's Twitter. So I'll probably make my own and change that. But for now, that's just a placeholder. So it doesn't show like a random guy in a suit there like that. But yeah, you can see. I'll probably have like a special screen that pops up, because if you know in TNO, it shows like a special little screen, like when you click on like the Siberian or African wasteland, it show like data not found or something, like a special little screen. I'll probably script that in there, but right now that's not really a priority. But again, these will start as anarchy at the start. Nobody controls them. But the tunnelways, any country that borders the tunnelways right here will have a decision tab to sort of use the tunnelways to trade illicit drugs or weapons to other cartels and warlord states. And by doing that, you will gain a lot of power and like economic power and vitality in factories, and expand your influence early on in the Civil War and gain the advantage over the weaker regional factions, say Wrong Side, because they only have about 300,000 people in these mountains. They're not really going to be a major player. So if you trade and sell your drugs and weapons, you can probably annex them really fast and get a lot of territory really fast. And what I plan is, if you choose to play as a cartel and not one of the state regions or one of the, say, the Guardian Angels, which is not a cartel. Some of them aren't cartels, like the Southern Offensive Command or National Resistance Army, but the vast majority of them are cartels. So if you play any cartel nation, you'll have the option to use a ton of ways to trade, and by doing that, you get economic power, like I said. And by doing this, if you play as El Suzerain and you decide to trade with a Guan Syndicate here, you can form an alliance with them, a military alliance with them, and get volunteers from them and support, direct military support. And it'll basically be, if you've played the Fire Rises, the American Civil War, if you play Patriot Front, Atomwaffen, or National Socialist Movement, any of like the neo-Nazi factions, they sort of have a national front that forms after the Civil War ends, or during the Civil War. I mean, they form a national front. So the three neo-Nazi factions form a national front where they cooperate, even though they have opposing motives. And when the Civil War ends, the national front immediately breaks up, and there's like a power struggle mechanic. So that will basically be the same thing. If you choose to cooperate with the cartels, let's say the Sayaki cartel annexes all this, you annex all this, and another cartel annexes all this, there will be like a power struggle mechanic between the three cartels. And if you fail the mechanic, it starts an all-out war with the other two, which you would probably most certainly lose, and it will just be going on an all-out war until one remains. And that does bring me to the point of super events. I don't think I'm going to add super events because a lot of people are really divided on super events. A lot of people say they're great. A lot of people hate them. Personally, I don't really have a problem with them. But if I do add them, it will definitely be a sub-mod, at least, or you have to toggle it, because I'm pretty sure most people don't want it to pop up every game. Because, again, super events, if I do add them, they will be very rare. But I do intend for there to be super events for all the unifiers, like there is in TNO Russia, where all the different unifiers, unify this island. And yes, if Sayaki Cartel unifies Octatria, you're getting a Holy Russian Empire, verify your clock, super, like, scary, creepypasta, evil, like, super event or some shit like that. So yeah, but again, about super events, I'm not really planning on adding them. And if I do, it would be a sub-mod or, a toggle. It would, like, ask you at the start of the game if you want to toggle. But yeah, this is one of the most exciting things I've wanted to show off. Because, again, I really love Civil Wars like this in Hearts of Iron 4 where it's just complete chaos. And that's why the Fire Rise is one of my favorite mods, because it's just, like, so many different, like, little factions. And you get to see them all consolidate into, like, rapidly consolidate into, larger regions. So that will basically be sort of the same idea. You'll have, like, an all-out war up here in this front, in this theater, until one remains. And then they'll eventually consolidate, or, like, there'll be the power struggle, and they'll, like, go to war with each other until one remains, just like the Fire Rises. So that would definitely be very, very interesting to play. Especially because this island is so big and so, expansive. There's so many cities and stuff. I'm definitely excited to get this into a playable state and see how it plays. But anyway, the other Civil War, which is probably going to be the only other Civil War, as of right now, it could change. But the other major Civil War is the Balbishkortan Civil War. And if you know, Balbishkortan in this mod is this large communist. Let me just bring them back from the dead here so I can show you. It's led by this fool, Nizarpen Balbishkortan, who's basically a gangster who rules it like a mob organization, like a giant mafia. He basically has an organization called the Gopnik Kings that rules the country, and they basically terrorize the country. I think it was in Panama, a drug cartel was effectively the government of Panama at a point, and I forget his name, but the cartel or the mob boss was the effective president of Panama. And the United States invaded and overthrew him. So it's basically sort of the same idea, where it's like a complete fail state ruled by gangsters and mobsters and, drug dealers and stuff, and just goons like this guy. And you can see he has his whole, his whole backstory and everything to him, where he was, he formed the Gopnik Kings at age 22 and became a vandal and just did all this petty theft. And then there was a Zatardom. It's called a Zatar, as you can see, a Zetar. So instead of a Tsardom, it's a Zatar. So that would be like the old Bashtorian kingdom. So he overthrew the Zatardom after the Zatar died. It sounds like I'm saying something a lot worse than that, but that's not what I'm trying to say. But you can even see he has like a crazy backstory, like after 6 tumultuous years, at least 20 assassination attempts, and extreme downturn in stability, the Gopnik king continues to exploit the coffers of these Bashtorian lands for his own enrichment. Towering marble statues of him line the city square of Balbishkta. He married the 55 personal maids in his citadel, and he remains the country's only millionaire. Moreover, through a complicated network of proxies, the government has undertaken a vast public spending spree to glorify the reign of the Gopnik king himself. So you can see he's just a complete, like, kakistocrat, kleptocrat, just complete fail state. And there's a reason this Babishkatan civil war is going to happen, because there's no way his regime would survive. As you can see, it has a modifier here, utter fail state. Internationally recognized by virtually all polities, Nirzapan Babishkatan's popular unity state of Babishkortan is far from a legitimate regime. In fact, many observers have characterized Bashtoria as it stands a failed state, with various criminal organizations controlling different areas within the country. Additionally, some have formed coherent paramilitaries that answer only to them, and with no central government to speak of, all elected officials being expelled and exiled, and corruption unlike anything the world has witnessed before. Failed state appears more like a compliment at this rate. So yeah, you can see it's definitely not the greatest place to be in the world. So you're going to have another all-out civil war here. And that's the only two like massive civil wars I plan. There could be more on like a smaller scale, but again, I don't want like a lag machine, because this is easily like 100 countries just right here, or 100 tags, excuse me, in just these two regions alone. So I don't want there to be like a huge lag machine with like a million countries splitting up. But this is basically, the only two civil wars I have programmed at the moment. And let me turn that off real quick so I can show you here. You have the Bashtorian Rapid Support Force, which I don't have their ideologies programmed yet. I'll get around to that. The Balbish Cherangdoet, which is like sort of like a religious, the Cherangdan religion, which if you remember from the last video, is dominant in this region. The Balbia Orda, the new Bashtorian Zatardom, the Bashtorian Solidarist Association, the Zone, which is ominous, and it's a complete wasteland. Everyone here died, and it's also demilitarized. Think of Stalker. There's a nuclear facility that will have exploded here, and I haven't programmed it yet, but you'll actually see a nuclear bomb goes off here. And so this whole region's like a complete wasteland, and it's off limits. So if you know the Zone from Stalker, that's what this is a reference to. But yeah, you also have the Yashtari League, Tutkov Squadron, the West Side Gang, the Birno Kava Gang, the Ust-Balbish Community League, the Thieves-in-Law, State of Tugra, the Babushka Ladies, which are going to be really fun to, add lore for, the Kiat Fellowship, Taskev's Goons, Petrov Syndicate, the Thunder Brothers, the Bashtorian Supreme Soviet, the Girko Mafia, the True Socialist Cause, Sukutsk, Mirstrovi, Denitsin Front, and Dinestrovi, which is usually a puppet of Bashtoria, is free. We have the Denitsin Front, which is unaffiliated. The New Pagan Horde, which will be esoteric. The Chukta Gavu Gang, the Bolshevra Commune, Shadix Gopniks, which is a TNO reference. Everyone knows that one super event video. Old TNO video. The Reorganized Bashtorian Armed Forces, and an Operation Overseer, which is directly affiliated with, down here, the Mercenaries Without Borders, which I can't remember if I showed them, but yeah, the Mercenaries Without Borders, they're basically, because on this island, this little hidden island, you have the three factions. You have the International Peacekeeping Authority, you have the Anarchist Nation just stored down here, just so its capital is set there, and you don't see like a random star in this desert, so it's just meant to hide that. And then you also have the Mercenaries Without Borders. And basically these are not countries, these are just organizations, like the IPA and the Mercenaries Without Borders, that for the game to function, they have to have territory so they can send volunteers. So these are basically like debug nations. You're not meant to play as them, but they're just hidden in the very corner of the map away from view, so that, they can spawn divisions around the world. They'll get like debug events to spawn divisions and stuff around the world. Like they'll spawn a like fleet in here or something when they take control of this, or they'll have other decisions around the world. They're basically the United Nations trying to keep the world peace, and they will intervene in a lot of affairs and send volunteers. So they'll have like a dynamic AI that sends volunteers to democratic nations, and they'll be especially prevalent in the Second Great Unaphrasian War that breaks out here, which I'll get to. But again, Operation Overseer is directly affiliated with the Mercenaries Without Borders. The Mercenaries Without Borders is not affiliated with the International Peacekeeping Authority. They're not necessarily rivals either, but they're a bunch of mercenaries. Think of them like PMC Wagner from Russia. They're basically hired mercenaries. They'll fight for anyone that pays for them, basically. They'll fight for fascists, for communists, for anybody that pays good money for their services. But they actually intervene in the Babish Civil War here and take control of these cities here in Kylo, Orkti, Lahaim, and Yostane. So it hasn't been put there yet, but they will be a puppet of the Mercenaries Without Borders and play a big role. So think of Mitchell Warbell from TNO. He makes like the United States of Russia when he takes over. He's just an American that takes over Russia. Basically be the same thing. It'll be like a sort of Englishman who takes over this Slavic type region. Obviously they're not Slavic, not English, because these are like fictional races. But I think there's a few I forgot to show. We have the Supreme Soviet here. The White Gopniks. Oh, and yeah, this. So the city, the mega city here, which is Babushka, has been split into several states. And now this is the only example of this on the map where a mega city is split into several states. Because as you can see, the mega cities are just like one big state. Right here, right there, and there. But this is the only example where it's actually split into several. And the only reason that's like that is because you have the city breaks out into, a gang war. So I turned off the city model so you can see clearly like the tiles here, because if you turn it on, you turn on the cities, you can't see shit. I don't know why it's like that, but you have Babushka-san's last hope, which is Nirzapan Babushka-san. He managed to survive and took control of this little region and retain control of it, but he will most likely die within the few first days of the war. What's called Babushka-san's last hope. So, and then you have the Holy Bashtorian Imperial Society, which took over the Grunk, which is like this slum area of the city where the abandoned Zatar's palace is there. And then you have the Balbishkotan Revolutionary Presidium, took place of the Revolutionary Council. The National Resuscitation Movement took control of the center here. Anti-Com, which is like an Antifa, but anti-communist instead. And then the B-17, which is like a notorious gang. Like they'll be established in the lore as a notorious gang, the B-17. So yeah, that's the Balbishkotan Civil War, which is also going to be very interesting to play in and fight over. But as for the map changes, because there's been a lot of progress on that front since the last video, you can see all the megacities. There's about 70 or 80 megacities in the world. And all of them, I'll just go over them briefly, all of them have their tiles and little regions, like little locations within them. Every single one of them is completely finished. And I think the only one I had finished last time was this one in Konomizre and this one. And I think a few other, but all of them have their, full city developed here. You can see Kurdnasre here. All the Ray ones have a mega city. Nielmur here. We showed you Konomizre. Gurgutum has this one. This one is Bukhayrat. You see People's Temple, Heavenly Shrine. This one in Pashinwali. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one down here. Down here. Let's see, where are the other ones? There's this one. I think there's this one, that one, and I think that's all the ones over here. And then you have this one. That one. I like this one. Old Clockworks. And then you have, this is Vitruvius' capital, so it's obviously really big. You have the Spartan League, the Requiem for the Children of War, West Autophrasian Culture Center, the Bodan Military Academy, the Monument of Vengeance, the Patriots of Tomorrow College, and the Olek Sea Harbor. And then you have Forest Helms. I think I showed that one already. Then you have this one here at Fjords Grid. This one in Wathena. This one, Kielru. Let's see. Yeah. In Sudrek here. Quinelli, Musicians Requiem, Harpiner Factory, Golden Hall, Grand Buffet, Great Anaphrasian War. There's that Great Anaphrasian War again. I have to explain that. But the Great Anaphrasian War is basically like this world's World War I. And the second one never happened. It happened in 2910, which is 88 years ago. Yeah, I'm not good. It was 88 years ago by the time the game starts. So there was one war. It never happened again. And that's when the International Peacekeeping Authority was formed. So the first Great Anaphrasian War was fought also against Vitruvius in Wandrusha and other powers here. So the second one will be like the big event in the mod, like I established near the beginning of the video. You also have these two big cities down here, and you even have like little straight crossings across the sea. You can cross across the little sea here. You got this one. And also each of them is their own state, as you can see, with its own population and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly go over all of them that I can find because there's so many of them now. Yeah, Nonagon. Yeah, I really, if you can tell, I really had fun at adding all of these. Like these are really fun to add. And I think the base game should have this. Like they should really do this in a DLC because you know how like in the base game Berlin is just one tile or like Moscow is one tile. The city battles aren't really that important because, again, it's just like one tile and it's not really realistic. So I think they should make the cities like multiple tiles like this and like add the locations within the city. And I didn't come up with this idea, of course. It's not revolutionary. I can't remember where exactly I got the idea from, but it was from I think it was from a similar mod. I don't know. I really don't remember where I got the idea from, but yeah, I came up with this a while ago. And I finally got around to adding all of the different, mega cities here. So each of them has their locations fully elaborated. And then we go over here to the Ankoran continent, which was basically untouched except for this region. Last time I showed off the mod, but it's completely finished now, except for some of the cities aren't named still. So you have Honor Guild up here, Scotia Gale up here. You have Mayrix. See, this one down here, Bamdrini. See, Tigertige, Sequer, Vaniers, Grogan, Rubabe, Rubabe. Yeah, I don't even know how I come up with some of these names, so I'm just like a natural at it. The Mukokatoon, Dandrul, Znarbang. Where you at? Farusus. Thugaze, Kuzku, Queschulkan, Mars, Sinargon, see, Ankir, Dantradov, and Nuthis. And there's also up here in Hyperborealia, there is Angala, which you see it doesn't have a lot of people because Hyperborealia up here is basically like a Inuits or like Eskimo country, but they actually are the only one that starts as a esoteric regime. And you can say it's the Hyperborealia in theory. It's not written what this is, but it's basically like they believe they're descendants of a god, godly civilization. That's the Hyperborealian theory, and they're the only ones who can have this ideology. So they're very special for that reason. As for their role, I think they could probably be like a TNO Burgundy sort of, subversive sort of organization. Like maybe they can help the Sayaki cartel or some of the other cartel factions, or maybe support the new pagan horde down here in Balbishkorton, or basically like covertly like espionage and like cause chaos around the world. So they'll probably be like a Burgundian system type figure and not really get directly involved in any conflict, just being up here on their little islands up here. But yeah, Angkor, for the last thing I want to say is, the map is completely finished. Because I think last time this wasn't touched, Balgusabira here, this wasn't touched, this entire continent wasn't touched. It was just this continent and I believe Octatria I had finished. But you can see all the all the different states have their population now, and every country also has a flag. Except for the releasable countries, they still haven't added releasables, the flags for them at least, or leadership for them. But there are a few releasables I've added. So you can see this map is very detailed. Each of these little regions have a population and buildings and stuff. So the map is completely finished. You also have your supply lines completely programmed with the supply hubs and stuff going on here. You can see all the railroads and stuff. The railroads took a long ass time to make, but you can see every country has their railway system. If you just hover over it here. Yeah, look at that shit. But here are also the ideologies of the world. Again, I'm trying to get through anything that I may not have elaborated on, might have missed. But here are all the ideologies of the world. The terrain. These are the cultures. I haven't touched the cultures map since last time. Still work in progress. The religions map. Oh yeah, I forgot to say. I'm glad I clicked on this, but there's been a few changes to the religions. There's a new religion, moralist Forgianity, which is a sub-branch of regular Forgianity. You can see it's like lighter pink. Think of this Protestant as to what Catholicism is. So these are like more like hardline moralist, like legislated morality. As you can see, these guys down here are moralists, but they're considered prohibitionists. So a lot of the moralist countries are like super traditional, right? And also moralists in the New World here, which is colonized by Force Helm. These are all puppet states of Force Helm. These are also all majority moralist areas. But there's definitely there's going to be like hundreds more religions. Ankara is going to be lore-wise, it's going to have like 100 religions. It's going to be super religiously diverse. But of course, it would be way too much to sort of write for all of them. So the ones that are like really minor, like tribal or folk religions, will be considered just folk religion. And the more, developed or major ones will have the full-fledged descriptions. But you do have your Cherongdan, which is sort of like Buddhist. Basically, Cherongdan, they believe the planets themselves are gods. And there's like two forces, the E and Kotu. The E is the good force, Kotu is the evil force. And you have to keep the balance between E and Kotu by like starting war or like bloodshed or fighting, and division would strengthen Kotu. And if you strengthen E, it would be like to do charitable actions and stuff like that. So, what?
I'm going.
Okay.
The front door's just got the one little lock. If you
Okay.
need somebody in the back of that.
Yeah. But Kotu and E are like the two forces like within everyone's spirit. And it was eventually the Farlanga Horde, which in the modern day Farlanguquo was the Farlanga Horde in the 1500s. They controlled basically all of this area and this area, basically like Mongol Empire. But then a massive plague struck and killed off a lot of them, and they forced to retreat here. So since then they believe that they committed so many evil actions, like through imperialism, through war and violence, that they strengthen an evil force within the planet called Kotu, and that unleashed a plague as like a retribution of sorts. So for that reason, now they're just very peaceful peoples, and they try and promote E. So it's basically like Buddhism. There's the two Buddhist, or the yin and yang, two forces of good and evil within everyone's spirit. That also happens to influence a denizen within the planet's core that controls like the events. And then you also have Forgianity, which is basically like Christianity. There is a God. God created the world. He drew like all the continents, planted all the trees, created all the nations and religions of the world. He created the world. So in that sense, I am technically God by technicality because I created this world. And it's explaining here that God drew the world by hand. He created all the trees, all the nations, all the cultures. So by technicality, I am God. It's not a self-insert. It's just, that's kind of funny how it would work. But Christoph Forgy is the son of God, or a warrior sent by God. He came from a land called the Heights, where the gods challenged each other to sword fights. So this is obviously a Roblox reference. But he fell after Dusakar, the god of Hallow, defeated him. And he fell down to the material world from the heights. And from that day forward, everything became known as AFF, or after Forgy fell. Everything before he fell would be BFF, or before Forgy fell. And that's basically for Christianity. And you can see it's the most expansive religion here by far. And the other established one here is Shumira, which is a lot like Islam. And this is basically like the northern desert regions. This is south. This whole region of the desert is South Anaphasia, but it's split between the Sharongdoists in the south and the Shemiras in the north. Shemirism is basically there's only one true God, the prophet Shutarach. He was sent by the one true God to preach his teachings, and he was actually the last God. So he says, I alone am the gifted soul who comes to preach and teach. I alone am the honored soul who comes to spread the word of God, the almighty King of kings, my mires, which are his disciples. For millennia, civilization has been led forward by different teachers, by countless voices. Behold, my friends, my brothers and sisters, behold, for here God sends his last prophet, after whom none shall come, and all that awaits is the prophesied end of the world. Prophet Shutarach, circa 1456 AFF. So yeah, this is basically like the youngest religion of the world, and Shutarach was a prophet sent by God. And he wanted to unite the whole, Shemirist world into the Dar al-Shemira, or the House of Shemira, under the guidance of the Heavenly Father and Prophet Shutarach. So you can definitely see it's a lot like Islam, like House of Islam, stuff like that. And you also have over here on the east, which I can't remember if I talked about it in the last episode, but the east, this orange religion is called Yorkankri. And it's a little interesting. It basically revolves around this giant sea here, this big old sea that separates the Sharongdoist world with the Yorkankri world. And basically it's a religion that's based around the people that they came from under the water. So it's sort of like Atlantean people, but they came from the sea. And they have to make a pilgrimage to the edge of the sea to pray and, pray to their gods. And they see, it says, the vast bodies of water such as the Cheorsk Sea vest strength within them. So Yorkankri's devout believers undertake a pilgrimage to the Cheorsk Sea each decade as a collective effort to harness energy and summon the spirits of the bygone underwater civilizations. So it's sort of like a religion that says, well, we are the descendants of this ancient underwater civilization that came from this lake. So it's a little interesting one. So it's more of like, less of like a, monotheistic nor even polytheistic religion. It's more of a religion that's continuing like cultural practices of a civilization they believe they were once part of that no longer exists. And they have to like worship it. And you also have Valoranism, which is unique to Valor Thrain. It doesn't have a description yet, but basically it's like a paganistic religion. Because as you see, Valor Thrain's like absolutist, but also has ultra-nationalist, esoteric. It's basically like a very isolated northern cold country. So this will be like a Spartanistic, sort of a paganistic religion in Valor Thrain here. And basically it will be everyone can become gods. Or like people can become their own god, essentially is what that will be. Through like being warriors and knights and stuff and going on conquest. So the Valorians are like very like, militaristic people, as you can see. It also establishes that in their sort of culture bio. And speaking of cultures, I haven't written that many since last time. It's kind of been on the back burner because again, like I've said, I have to kind of be in the mood to write, and so I can't really churn these out on a consistent basis. But there have been a few leader descriptions added. I'll just briefly go over these. You can pause if you want to read them. Like I believe he has a new description that I haven't shown yet. Park Chum Pickers is still there. I believe I showed his. You had Babushka San's right here. Let's see who else has them. Remember, oh yeah, Gert von Rupert has one. You can see, you can read it here if you want to. Let's see. Zuzana doesn't have one yet, unfortunately. I'm going to get to work on that soon. Let's see, who else? Oh yeah, she has one. Of course, I remember showing that. And there's also Trapper Heckenlooper here, who has one. And this country is going to be very interesting. I plan for it to be like a minor playable country. But it's basically, this entire country is based on like those reality TV shows where they go in the forest and like hunt cryptids and Bigfoot and stuff. And they're like hillbillies. It's like, we found that damn Sasquatch! And it's like an entire country based on that. Sort of like, absurd reality TV show cryptid hunting thing. It's if the hunters and trappers owned their own country and ruled it. So it's going to be a very interesting country to play. And basically, it's like a tribal confederation. It hasn't been written yet, but there will be like a lot of different like independent tribes here, and each of them will sort of revolve around their own cryptid creature or folklore. But Trapper basically came here and he spread the teachings or the folklore of the different tribes across the world through his books and like his ventures through this vast land of Alayapchi. And for that reason, he became very popular among the natives and became their figurehead leader. So Trapper Hickenlooper is the oldest head of state. He's actually the only person still alive that is a head of state born in the 29th century. Because as you see, it's the 30th century, 2998. He was born in 2899. So he is exactly 99 years old. He's the only person in the world from the 29th century that is a head of state still alive. And lore-wise, there's only about 10,000 people from the 29th century still alive. Because again, the Great Anaphrasian War killed off a lot of people that generation. Not many people were having children then during the war. And so there's very few people from the 29th century that are still alive today. And most of them are from the very late 29th century, like 2880, 2890. But Trapper is special because he's the oldest head of state and the only one from the 29th century. So definitely be an interesting character to play as. And I also have to show you the leader spirits, the lore for the different countries. I'll just briefly hover over these so you can pause if you want to read them. So here are Force Helm's leader spirits. Force Helm and her subjects. You see a lot of these are pretty long, have lots of lore going on. Wandrusha's spirits here. Right, Pacifist Ethos, Melting Pot. Dance of the Favorite Sons and Daughters, Exarevno Cosmodrome, A Lost Generation, Konomi's Raised Spirits, The Pole Pickist Method, Bustling Metropolises, The Great Fatherland, Dreams of a New Sunrise, the Gongron Metro System, and the Scars from the Konomi-Kurdni War. And I believe Babush Khatan has a few. The Utter Fail State, Sherongdon Conundrum, Gopnik's Paradise, and the Bashtar Nuclear Facility. You can see in red said, what could possibly go wrong? So if you remember I was telling you about the zone, yeah, something really bad is going to go on there. So, but I believe that's all I have to show for development. I will briefly show like a slideshow of all the characters at the end of this video. Or I'll just do it right now. We'll just go along. I'll just show you all the characters. So Miskri Kuki, Makitov Losevic, Lexi Stoyan, Viktor Ogvich, Kaiko Kintamari, Mamaktakala X, Sergio Walrusi, Tango Deladez, Vladimiro Waljeski, Milos Ulyadi, Zak Eleni, Bakri Omaz, Simen Kokrein, Nirzopan Babushkasan, Bayara Rinpoche, Yirakan Sikithkar, Luka Vadov, Smirny Uru, Prazi Kowalski, Mihaly Orbani, Borgen Grezgor, Wazidan Grezgorvich, Ivan Meridan, Ruby Mapletarp, Halaz Wadeski, Cosmo Olaf, Berdilev Adilio, Igrid Brigetta, Wilton Lugwith, Thule Marsh, Padraig Durfee, Elder Gallagher, Pinbrook Valentine, Cano Blessings, Siobhan Fisher, Catherine Croak, Brother Seamus, Egfrid Mall, Chauncey de Gruff, Ernest Gaffney. It sounds like the Danganronpa fucking thing. Ruvze Lambda, Duffy Turgan, Saurez Gauge, Jabadan Ioziani, Zane Vulcan, Sully Tadale, Stebaxter Resume, Sierra Cry, Prince Galsry, Junkry Brindle, Dominic Falan, Milo Powers, Jacob In Blazer, Pomka Kirby Craftsman, Croxley Heath Morecolor, Lane Price, Persephone Conwhite. Let's see, which one did I didn't get? Toby Callan. I think that's all them. Yep. Count Vernier, Grugi Talberg, Richter Gunthar, Kap Gulmez, Zuzana Karazaz, and I believe that's all there. Shukora Karamov, Suleiman Hoyez, Gandeti Mamadou, Batirul Gamazir, Ravan Askarade, Parkyun Piku, Sergen Guzliov, Sigen Vazis, Alchidai Oguchu, or Kagachi, Daznev Gova, Uzman Biaz, Darlene Gastiev, Jamil Aroyu, Amri Ulyelev, Aspani Ezrus, Nienev Ogrod, Damiruz Gadarak, Nemluk Bobek, Iroda Wasi, Gafar Oldash, Tukas Khan, Zutan Awala, Safari Gorod, Kazgri Uger, Mazgar Sagruch III, Bestovius Walia, Quizbek Stefanu, see, did I miss any? I believe so. Surano the fourth, I almost said fifth. It's literally four, like Hearts of Iron 4. Shani Duizov. Let's see. And then we also have the, let me bring back Octatria from the dead. You have Octavio Takamori, Akak Ignitia, Chief Okake, A.D. Sirvaktana, Shawaz Moroni, Natiskawak Sonorgog, Demeg Ranganikur, Deokta Zuyodashtar, Suzere Ninpakche, Sai Anaste, Senor Pacha Quihli Vaka, Vaka Zero, Tanuk Tatas, Tanez Rufor, Senora Kinger, Gririz Vamo, Raka Ahwanaman, Sarath Riketkur, Ku Pochiru, Ku Danawahadza, Inuk Dadan, Hergze Eloha, Koyer Abane, Ku Des Kachana, Bezdete Awo, Ugvi Wiu Aninela, Anara Cadet, Maya Wabohewa, Jeds Mahal, Paido Oddd, Zanamid Gares, Paten Gugue, Gert van Rupert II, Tayok Usu, Snare Sol Eledin, Irod Grange, Tavrid Elowed, Sarel Werwade, Hair Goziet, Kurtash Schlufang, Tajad Farewell, Widwert Guldan, Graphit Deluge, Kelter Edage, Trapper Heckenlooper, Tailweaver Sagemind, Grafton Kid, Walters the Groot, Chance Guernsey, Zane Sticks, Cash Agnew, Cramen Rockenfuller, Sir Palmer Wally II, Jadith Croswell, can't forget about you, man, McCraney Concrete, and this tiny little one right here, almost forget him. And then down here you have Galwick Umberdram, Devastation was just the Anarchy, and then Arnold McMasters. And those are all the characters as of right now. So yeah, that's been a lot of progress in the past 3 months, and I do have one last thing to show, and then I promise we'll be done with this, because this is getting a pretty long video, man. But I'm just going to show you real quick the releasables, because I have a command that I programmed to quickly release every country. Now, there are going to be releasables. So if you type Balkanize in the console here, you see the whole world just exploded into a bunch of releasable countries. And not all of them have their code, like their political internal politics, their flag, or their leaders, but basically most countries will be able to not release at the start of the game, but they will basically, in peace deals. These are like for role play reasons. Like you can release these for like peace deals, and this is very inspired like Rise of Nations from Roblox. There's like lots of like releasable nations that can like break apart. So you have Kathy's Grid, Elsland, Okraigu, Gurugdan, Sibania, Lurkane, Yalgun, Barbartia, Chedra, Burheim, Kogogda. You can see that these actually have their flags, the Wandrushan ones at least. Stoicia, let me see if I show all flags, yeah. Stoicia, Fruga, Poljania, Saruda, Zuzungar, and I don't have one yet, Skius, Dimazitov, Ortamasi, Wamkakta, Takaya, Gariris, Yerakidam, Karlikia, Priviant, nope, they don't have one, Potterdish, and Wasami Thrain. And you can see there's also a lot more releasables like Cheorkis Thrain, Wadon Thrain, Zingazi Thrain, Bankri Thrain, Asgard Thrain, Kruvane Thrain, Vasni Ukrig, Skoiduz, blah 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 blah. You also even have like Blue, Konomi's Ray and stuff like that. Weird sort of releasable countries. So you see there's so many more that just kind of spawn in the world, and only this region, and this region have their releasables fully programmed because they are easy to add, but they're just not a big priority. Again, the only reason releasables are actually programmed into the mod is because when you do peace deals, it'll give you a lot more options for like roleplay reasons. Like you can say, I want this country to be independent and be my puppet and own this and this. So there's like a lot of releasable tags. So I just thought it would be fun and interesting to add all these releasables. Let me just scroll over here. You can see these because I'm not going to say all these because it is getting too long. But you can see all these different releasables that can potentially be created as the game progresses. Very interesting indeed. So yeah, as for the mod itself, hopefully I get a playable demo out by the end of the year, but that's not really likely that I can get it done in a month, because again, this is just a two-man team. And also there's a big problem, I mentioned it in the beginning of this video, with divisions. Divisions are crashing my game, and I don't know why. I've tried everything to fix it. I keep getting this client_ping error that crashes it like after the first 2 hours tick. Right now it's fine because it's very weird. Like as you can see, Konomi's Ray has their troops and they can move it. Zapara's land also has theirs, and Ugrit's Ray. But Tenetsi Ray, I have theirs on file, and Kurnaz Ray, and Vigor's Ray. But if I add Kurnaz Ray or Tenetsi Rays or Vigor's Rays, troops, the game will crash by now. And it says client ping, and I don't know how to fix it because I've tried everything. My error log is basically empty. The only thing the error log is saying right now is that it can't find the order of battle files, for the units to spawn because I removed them all. So obviously it would just put those errors. But besides that, the error log is basically empty. So I have no idea what's causing it, and I really hope I can get it fixed, because if not, well, yeah, it's pretty bad because I don't know what to do. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I do have someone from the Equestria at War dev team, Baron Von Blue, from the Hearts of Iron 4 modding Discord, who's actually taking a look at it for me, and hopefully he can get it fixed. Hopefully, I'm praying to God because I don't want all this work to go waste. Again, I'm pretty sure there is a fix to it. It could be any number of things. Like who the hell knows really what it could be? Because it's really, it's hard to tell or diagnose what it might be because it's not giving me any information. But yeah, until I can get that sorted out, this mod cannot be released in any playable state until I can get the division crash sorted out. And I'm pretty sure we'll find a solution to that pretty soon. But as for now, it's a big problem, and I can't fix it. But that's basically it that I wanted to show off today. And yeah, this is a much longer video than my last video, because in my last video, there was a lot that I did intend to show off, but I just skipped over it or forgot about it because I'm not really good with this unscripted stuff. Even if I have like a bullet note list of everything I want to talk about, I'm still going to forget some things. But yeah, one thing you may have noticed is, last thing I'll say is the culture system is no longer implemented. I actually removed it. And it may come back, yes, to some people's disappointment. You remember if you clicked here, you could see a little culture pie chart, everyone that lives here. But yes, it has been removed because for it to function, every little state has to have variables, and there are tons of variables. And I was afraid that it would lag the game because there's 3,000 states, and the game having to take track of all those variables, I was afraid it would cause the game to lag or performance issues. And yeah, it's more of a thing. It takes way too long to implement for what it's worth, because again, to implement all of those different cultural makeups and make them realistic and stuff for every state, of which there are 3,000, it's too much work for what it's worth. So it may come back in a different form. I still have the programming in it for there, but Baron Von Blue also helped me implement that. But I still have the code for that in the files. It's just blanked out, so it doesn't load in the actual game. But yeah, that is the only thing that I have removed as of right now. And it could come back, of course. But yeah, I'm going to meet y'all next time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye. Hope I can really fix that fucking division.